Is the Pokemon bubble finally getting ready to pop? Has the bull market finally ran its course? PSA just made a pretty big announcement. And if history repeats itself, collectors may take a much different approach to grading moving forward. But before everybody goes and panics and sells off everything they own, if you're new here, I just want to go ahead and let you know this has already happened once before. What's up, everybody? My name's John. I'm the owner of Jed's Card Shop. We're a hobby and TCG online store. And today we're here to discuss the crazy news with PSA. We're continuing the series of Chaos Rising because, man, every week it's more chaos. So let's go ahead and dive into this one. So for starters, how did we even get in this position? And that is an interesting question. How does a company that focuses on grading get backlogged on grading products? So you have to look at what's taken place over the last couple of years. Right now, we are seeing an all-time high of rip and shippers. So many packs of cards are getting opened every single day. There are so many new chase cards that's entered the market. Everybody's chasing that PSA 10. We are seeing bulk submissions of several hundred cards at a time being sent for grading, and that's just one person. And then add on to it, you've got all these mystery slab companies, mystery pack companies, and man, after a while, it adds up. And eventually, the amount of cards that were coming in became greater than the amount of cards that could come out. And this, honestly, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. This takes me back to 2021. I want to say it was at the end of March, early April in 2021 when we had our last bull market. PSA made a very similar announcement, and it was because the demand became overwhelming. Now, what does that mean for your current slabs? So if history repeats itself, that also means some of your slabs are going to increase in price because there's not going to be as many coming out for the next probably 12 months. Now, that does not mean go and panic sell today, because even some of your nines are going to become desirable. The last time this happened, we've seen a lot of slabs start to jump up, and even some going as high as 20+%. Because remember, when grading slows down, supply is not going to meet demand. These businesses, these slab companies, still have to churn and burn. They still have to get their hands on slabs. So if they can't manufacture it through their own grading, now they have to buy yours. And that's where you see the market will go higher, because the existing graded copies are now going to be more desirable. Also bear in mind, there is another side to the story. PSA is eventually going to catch up. And when they do catch up, you will see a lot of downward pressure on a lot of Pokemon cards and a lot of graded slabs. So that's where right now the key is not to panic. The key is to be very thoughtful and methodical on what you decide to do. Because right now is a good opportunity for a lot of people to make a decent amount of income. But if you go at this very emotionally, that's where you're going to get caught. And before I go any further, let's go ahead and put a disclaimer in here. This video is not me endorsing, supporting PSA in any way, shape, or form. And I'm wanting to keep the emotional side out of this conversation. This is about the sheer facts and what is taking place in our hobby. Whether you like PSA or hate PSA is very irrelevant to this discussion. The next question is, should I be grading? And I'm going to give you a very uninspired answer. It depends. The days of sending in multiple cards and hoping for a 10 is coming to a halt, especially if you're going through PSA. I mean, $80 is the cheapest I think you can have a card graded right now. So if a card's worth $100 as a PSA 10, but $50 as a PSA 9, you need to weigh out your odds if it's worth sending in. So we're going to see a lot of bulk submissions kind of slow down. But the reason I said it depends, it really comes down to what you're trying to achieve. There's still plenty of chase cards out there that $80 may actually make sense. But if you're going to go that route, I do highly recommend that you look into one of these AI grading softwares. The one we use is Holodecks. I'm not sponsored. My channel is not big enough to even have a sponsor. But I use it, and I will tell you the results have always been pretty much on par. If it says I'm getting a 10, I've got a 10. If it tells me I've got a 9, I've actually got a 10 a couple times on that. It's always been the same or higher. It's never been lower. So if you are thinking about sending in cards to get graded and you are thinking about paying that expensive entry fee, I do recommend that you at least check out a couple grading softwares and make sure the gamble's worth it, because the profit margin on a 10 is high, but the loss on a 9 is great. But I'm not here to tell you what to do with your collector dollars. Just make sure you're weighing out the cost. Make sure it's worth it. When we're talking about grading, there's going to be a natural question that always pops up is, well, John, should we use a different grading company? Once again, it depends. It depends on what your goals are, what you want, what you're looking for, and what you're wanting. Because companies like CGC, Beckett, TAG, AGS, all these are still available and still relatively affordable. I mean, even Rudy has started his own graded company. So you can still get cards graded. But let's be realistic. For starters, like PSA or hate PSA, they are the standard. They demand the highest resale value outside of a Beckett 10, but let's just face it, it's a lot easier to get a PSA 10 than it is to get a Beckett 10. And unless you get a Beckett Black Label, the other ones really aren't that worth it. PSA is the standard, especially when it comes to Pokemon. And I'm not saying any of the other grading companies are bad. I actually use several different grading companies. But just remember what your goals are. If your goal is to just secure the card because you're absolutely in love with it, yeah, any of these grading companies make sense. If you're looking for resale value, that's where you got to be strategic on this. The strategy that you use will make the biggest difference. Now for my collectors out there, be very careful during this time, especially if you like buying slabs. Some of these other slabs are going to start demanding a premium. Make sure you're not paying PSA price for a less than PSA card. However you decide to navigate this, be strategic. Take the time and think it through. Do not go from an emotional stance. Because at the end of the day, do I think grading is going to end? No, I don't. I think the hobby will adjust and will adapt and overcome this. But the collectors that take the time and slow down and think their way through it are usually the ones that end up ahead on these situations. But once again, what do I know? I'm just some random guy from the beach that's talking about Pokemon on the internet. But let me know what you decide to do. Let me know if you're going to continue to grade. Let me know if you're going to grading companies. Let me know your thoughts. I'm legitimately curious how other people are taking this information. Leave a comment below. Let me know. And if you've watched this long, I really am interested in knowing how many people watch these longer form videos. Do me a favor, just comment #graded in the comment section, and it lets me know that you watched till this point. Now, if you like this kind of content and you want to support the channel, please consider checking out our website. Every sale, it gets us one step closer to our goals and to achieving something. But until our next video, goodbye everybody.